D23 is the ratification of the 2015-2017 tentative agreement, successor contract between Miami-Dade County Public Schools and the United Teachers of Dade. We have several speakers on this. Dr. Frederick Ingram. Frederick Ingram? Mr. Ingram, sir? We will, but would you like to speak? Or afterwards? Okay. Mr. Superintendent, what is your pleasure, sir?
Madam Chair, what we're presenting before to you for consideration is the result of the ratification of the 2015-17 tentative agreement successor contract between Miami-Dade County Public Schools and United Teachers of Dade. I want to thank the board for the guidance, the policy guidance, and the encouragement and the allocation of resources through this budget that for the first time in over 15 years, not only authorized a collective bargaining reserve, but also led to the settlement of this agreement prior to the first day of school. Those are important milestones. I want to thank President Frederick Ingram, as well as the entire executive board of UTD, all of the fantastic teachers they represent, for their hard work and for their vote in support of this contract. I'll be the first one to say that contract negotiations are not without controversy, but I also am a faithful believer that people of good intention and good character can always carve out common ground around what's important. And what could be more important than providing a salary increase to our teachers and support staff, providing not only a cessation of increase in terms of healthcare costs, but in many cases a decrease in healthcare costs that would be contributed by the workforce, than really doing so through this contract. Well, that's exactly what D23 represents. So it all starts with an allocation of budget and a policy decision of this board. You did so, quite frankly, months ago, when we first presented a recommendation, and today is the fruit of that initial decision. So I would also have to mention, obviously, that this is the first contract that's negotiated after significant state legislation that mandates a number of elements. And it is not easy to negotiate through that. Both sides of this negotiation, on UTD's side as well as on staff side, were able to, in a very noble and respectful way, negotiate territory that had not been traveled before. That was not easy. And lastly, it was the board's intent, as well as administration's intent for a long time, to address the issue of salary equity for all teachers. And this is a contract that advances on that premise and that promise. If the contract had not been revisited and the issue that some teachers would be getting as little as a $150 increase, even though they may have been in the system for 3, 4, 5, 6 years, that was unacceptable to you, was unacceptable to us, and it was recognized as a challenge by UTD. Those issues are addressed. And lastly, a contract is a document that lives and breathes and is open for review and negotiation every year. So next year, as we are wrapping this one up, next year is yet again an opportunity to continue to revisit not only the issue of equity, but also the issue of expectation. That some individuals who were stuck in a system of compensation that often demanded delayed gratification, albeit excessively. Now, there is a faster way, more respectful way to actually get to the same spot. And for those, and I mean this, that waited, and I know President Ingram agrees, as we discussed this, I believe just last night, those who were very close to realizing that magical step or magical steps, there are ways of continuing to cure this in years to come. And that is our commitment. We want to do right, not just by some, but by everyone. and this contract advances the concept of equity in a noble, transparent, and respectful way. So, Madam Chair, members of the board, D23 represents the hard work of many individuals on our side, on the union side. I thanked Frederick Ingram and his team. I have to thank Mr. Jimmy Hodge, under the leadership of Mr. Dotres and their entire team, for the fantastic work that I think has been accomplished. And the very last thing, I cannot think of another governmental institution that has been able to arrest the escalation of healthcare costs the way we have. I would not in any way underestimate the impact that that has on our workforce. We're doing the right thing at the right time for absolutely the right reason. Thank you very much.
We should go down to sign the contract. What are we?
Yes, I think it's ready. I was actually killing some time expecting the pens to be delivered, but I think we're ready, Madam Chair.
I think they delivered the pens, if I see right. Yes, isn't it? Yes. Sir, I will call the public speakers. We're going to sign the contract, but when I start calling public speakers, Mr. Ingram indicated that he would like to do it after the signature. Would you like to speak before, sir? If you would like to speak before, you certainly may.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
A quick, I think Dr. Perez had...
I'd like to know how much we subsidize our health care for our employees. What's that
Of course,
figure?
I thought, that's why I asked before, if you all remember, when I read this item, I first asked the speakers that had signed up if they wanted to speak. I was told by Mr. Ingram, who's the president of UTD, he preferred to speak afterwards. Then I said, Mr. Superintendent, your pleasure, so I allowed Superintendent to speak. So I'm trying to do what everybody's happy with. But if a board member wants to speak, certainly, Dr. Perez, you're certainly able and allowed to speak. I'd be happy. And if the other board members want to speak first, I'll be happy to do that too.
Just that question, please.
I will, Madam Chair, I'll begin by answering the question, and I'll ask Mr. Clark or Ms. Marte to answer the rest. So for a large percentage of our colleagues, our teachers and support staff, if the coverage is for them, uniquely for them, we subsidize it 100%, 100%. For dependents, employees with dependents, we subsidize it to the tune of? Through the chair?
Through the chair, with this new contract term, it will be $74.9 million.
And if I may, Madam Chair, what percentage of the contribution is borne by the board?
Through the chair, depending upon the salary band, at least 50%, it goes up to as much as 85%.
So the individuals who, through the chair, who earn the least have a subsidy towards their dependent coverage that reaches 85%, and then of course goes down on the basis of a specific salary band.
Madam
Yes,
Chair,
Dr. Perez,
the
please.
$74 million is for the dependent coverage, you're saying?
Through the chair, yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else want to speak or ask a question before? Yes, Dr. Feldman, sir.
Since we broke the mold here, I
No,
just
I
have one
didn't-
question.
I didn't break it.
No, I didn't say you. I only have one question, if I can, and that goes to the attorney. Mr. Harvey, you know, in reading all of these articles and emails and concerns that have been brought forth to many of us, my only question is this. In the development of this document between the UTD and the School Board of Dade County, its final representation of this contract, does it violate any statutes? Does it violate any policies, any rules, any collective bargaining agreements between UTD and the school board itself?
No. Through the chair, no, it does not violate any of the aforementioned documents or statutes or rules or policies that you reference.
Does it violate anything I didn't reference?
I am not aware of any
Thank you.
violations, and I've reviewed the matter thoroughly. This tentative agreement was negotiated between the district and UTD in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 447 of Florida statutes, which governs collective bargaining. The union as a bargaining unit, United Teachers of Dade, is entitled to bargain on behalf of all the employees that they represent. They do not bargain on behalf of individual employees or specific individuals. And based on Chapter 447 and 101222 and the other provisions that have been cited in those items, the board is legally authorized to approve or to at least consider this tentative agreement for approval.
Okay. I thank you for that, Mr. Attorney, and thank you, Madam Chair. Fed, I want to thank you also for you and your team and staying straight with all the statutes and everything. We very much appreciate all of it.
Yes. Any other board member need anything to be done before we go down to this to sign? I guess we can do that, and then I'll call public speakers. And then if the board would be so kind to go down for pictures afterwards, I'll be appreciative.
I did try to send a hand.
Manage your expectations. 80% is error. A lo mejor la locura no es tan severa. Maybe it's not so good. Ah, mira, I think we were supposed to go down. Oh my God. I don't know.
Are we supposed to be on the picture?
Oh, I don't care. Well, I don't know. They didn't ask us. I read. No, Madam Chair.
I thought you were all coming down. I am so sorry. I said all of you to come down. I am so sorry.
I was reading it, he's on LinkedIn, I was like reading it, I was like, wait a second, I almost freaked out, like, not again, like, it's gonna go well when I saw it, I was like, oh, that's great. Thank you. Love you. Good job.
But obedient of what? I said after we sign, please everybody come down. I was like, pero como, how would I know that everybody was here? Pero como un detective abajo chequeando. You know, alguna vez she said everybody come down. También sí le hizo caso. Se me escuchó.
Ahora viene la
Que me escuchó.
heavy artillery. I don't know, vienen a regañar,
Nada más que alguna vez el otro día. Y se me dio
No hay forma de...
le soné duro, primera vez.
No, y es que, ¿sabes? Llega el momento that you have to...
United again, the board, is that we all sitting here? I'm going to call the public speakers now, since we did the signing ceremony. Mr. Frederick Ingram, sir? Good afternoon again.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Good.
To Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, and the rest of the board, Superintendent, and all those present and all those watching. My name is Frederick Ingram. I'm the president of United Teachers of Day, and today's a good day. Today's is a day where we can honor and respect those who work closest with our children. Today is the day that we can honor and respect not only instructional employees, but non-instructional employees who do the work that we either don't do, won't do, or can't do. They work hard every day, and that's where the rubber hits the road. You might think that I'm excited about the contract today, but I'm more excited about the process, because in our district, 15,000 people on yesterday took an opportunity before school, after school, lunchtime, during their breaks, to exercise their civic duty. And that is their right to vote on this particular contract. And 15,000 plus people in our district, employees, made a difference. And so we're ecstatic about that. People know that this is a contract worth $52 million in compensation for our employees. It identifies retro pay back to July 1st, and it's going to have an early October payday. And so we're really, really excited about that. Like the superintendent mentioned, you know better than anyone what's happening with healthcare costs all over this country, especially in the state of Florida, and more specifically in Miami-Dade. We have done the impossible, and that is to stop the increase. And in many cases, many of United Teachers of Day bargaining unit members will see a significant decrease depending on what they take and who they represent in their healthcare costs and what salary band they have. So we're really proud of that as well. And I want everybody to remember who's listening to this, where the money for collective bargaining and everything else comes from. It comes from Tallahassee. And so we have to continue to put pressure on those in Tallahassee who know that they should do more, but they don't do. And we're in a state for the second year in a row that is expecting a surplus of funds that is coming to the state of Florida because of many different factors, because our housing market is back, because our tourism is back, and we expect to have a significant increase in dollars going into next year. But folks in Tallahassee must make the right decisions. And so we have to start to put that pressure on those people, on those lawmakers now, while they're home in Miami-Dade County. The organizational meetings have started, or will start in the next couple of weeks. And so people need to email and write and call. And don't let the pressure go. There were people who voted against this contract. And I want those people to know that we hear you too. We hear you because we hear the angst in ed reform. We know that we have too much testing coming down from the state. We know that there are too many uncertainties that are coming from those lawmakers who are doing all kinds of things as it relates to public education. When you send $87 million or whatever the number is and you earmark that part of those dollars to charter schools, you do a disservice to the traditional K-8 public school system. And that we must fix in Tallahassee. We must fix it here in Miami-Dade County, because if you're going to represent our entity here, then you must carry our interests. And so that's where the fight is. That's what we have to do. And I want to say to those people who voted for this contract, this is a vote of confidence in what we call collective bargaining and 447. You believe in the process. You believe that we, and when I say we, I'm talking about this union. I'm talking about the superintendent and notably this school board, who has earmarked dollars and who pushed more dollars because we pushed. And I want to thank you for that, because we continue to push all summer long, and we continue to ask, and we continue to lobby pressure, not only on Ms. Marte, but on the superintendent and to you, and you, the board, with your leadership and your guidance, Ms. Perla Tabares-Hammond. I want to thank you, because you set a dollar amount, and we went to another dollar amount, and we went to another dollar amount. And this board didn't have to do that. And so thank you, Mr. Superintendent. He is a well-established adversary when necessary, but also a well-established colleague always. And so I want to thank everybody in this process. There are those in a democracy. I think the blessing and the curse of democracy is the best thing that we have going. This is what makes our country different. The curse is that sometimes you can say anything that you want to say without the reference of facts and without the reference of what we call the truth. But United Teachers of Day seeks higher ground. That's the fertile ground of what we call truth and democracy. You can try to disparage the process. You can try to vilify me. You can try and do things to my colleagues who are salt of the earth. Tom Gammon and Carla Matz are the noblest colleagues that I can ever ask for. And when I see things and read things on blogs and social media, it's unfair. It's unfair for people who put it on the line every single day to represent those members. So I want everyone to understand that democracy is hard. And when you're a leader, my dad used to tell me the only way you know you're leading is when somebody's kicking you in the butt. That's true. But that is the reason why I choose to be the president of the United Teachers of Dade, because this is a calling, and we're going to call for more. So I want to let you know, school board members, we'll be right back to the table next year calling for more. And so thank you, Mr. Superintendent, because this is a step in the right direction. This is not what our people deserve. This is not what they want. This is the best that we could do given the unfair circumstances of Tallahassee. And when we start to break down those parameters in Tallahassee, we will start to see more evidence of more things that can happen for our people. We took a step, like the superintendent said, where we haven't stepped before. And this is uncharted territory for all of us. So there's a lot of angst in our district. We will work to cure that angst. We will inform people, because I think information is power, and misinformation leads to another kind of power. So we want all of you to know that this process is made whole because we have a board, we have a unified board who believes in public education. But we want you to fight with us even harder. We know that you go to Tallahassee. I've seen you. I've sat in committees with you. I've sat in some of those offices with you, and many of you have been in Tallahassee much longer than I have, and you know the ins and outs of that. But we need to fight harder. We need to do more, because what we're asking our people to do in our classrooms every single day is the impossible. They believe in what they cannot see. That's what they do every single day. And they deliver every single year. Match us up with any urban school district, match us up with any school district. We outnumber, we outmatch, we outwit, and we out-succeed every single time. But if we're going to continue to do that, know that our country is in a teacher shortage. We don't see that evidence here in Miami-Dade County because of some of the things that we're doing. But when you start to push that down and you start to squeeze that down, that is going to be a turning point in the state of Florida and in Miami-Dade County. There is a national teacher shortage. And what that means is schools of education are having problems recruiting high school students to be teachers. And that is an unfortunate circumstance in our country because public education, if it is the real cornerstone of our democracy, then we've got to do better. We've got to do more for people who work every day. I want to thank every secretary out there. I want to thank every paraprofessional out there, every security monitor, full-time or part-time. I want to thank every teacher of every diaspora because the work that you do it cannot be quantified in a contract. And so thank you all very much. On behalf of United Teachers of Dade, I'm the proud president of this great union. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I just wanted, and for the record, to clarify that the exception or the reason I certainly allow more time to speak to Mr. Ingram is because he is the president of United Teachers of Dade. We just signed a contract, and I think Mr. Ingram, as the president that signed the contract with us, I wanted to give him the time to do so. That does not mean that I will not give some more time to other people that will be speaking on this same issue. But I just wanted to clarify that for the record because I don't want any misunderstanding. I don't want anyone chastising me. I think it's his right, and I think it's our obligation to listen to him because he happens to represent all the teachers. He's the president of all the teachers of United Teachers of Dade. So I just want to put that on the record. Thank you, Mr. Ingram. Thomas Gammon?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair,
Good
again,
afternoon,
and
sir.
board members, Mr. Superintendent. The new successor contract was a very hard one for many of our members to deal with as it dealt with the ending of the salary step system that has been part of our contract for so many, many years. Unfortunately, one of the many harmful requirements of the Student Success Act, also known as Senate Bill 736, necessitated this drastic change. The angst that our members experienced in wrestling with this new salary model is a direct result of the frustration they have with the passage of damaging legislation affecting public educators in Tallahassee over the years. I am happy, though, that we do have a contract that effectively addresses the law and that was reached prior to school starting with salary adjustments beginning July 1st. I'm also hopeful that the change made to our instructional evaluation system, IPEGS, in this new contract will be the catalyst to finally move to a system that stresses teacher professional growth over compliance. For far too many years, the teachers of this district have not felt that our evaluation and growth system even had a growth component, even though the G in IPEG stands for growth. Working closely with the Office of Human Capital through Mr. Dotris and his professional development staff, my confidence has been restored that our teachers will be able to emphasize and continue to improve their professional practices in an environment that stresses professional learning and one that moves away from a checklist of indicators. The involvement of our joint IHEAT teachers and our Joint Committee on Teacher Evaluation in the development of this new growth component, as well as changes in the IPEGS manual, is a testament that collaboration between UTD and the district is the best way to achieve successful results. UTD looks forward to a continuation of this joint work. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Carla Hernandez-Matz? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, school board members, and Mr. Superintendent. I am Carla Hernandez-Matz, Secretary-Treasurer of the United Teachers of Dade, and I am pleased to know that the majority of our bargaining unit is satisfied with our $52 million contract. We always wish to do more because our education professionals deserve more. Our teachers, security monitors, clericals, and paraprofessionals all deserve to have better working conditions and living wages, especially since they educate Miami through their excellence. However, I want to specifically focus on those that voted against the contract. Most of them voted in that manner because they feel angst about a new system. They are uncertain of how compliance to Senate Bill 736 will impact their livelihood. They have questions that cannot yet be answered because, as we all know, negotiations on salary schedule and health care occur annually. However, in good faith, we could not have come to this agreement if both sides did not see these changes necessary and viable. Changes for a better system that complies in the least detrimental way, that does not allow to pit teacher against teacher. Change that we can empower our education professionals and make our public schools stronger through successful, worthwhile careers in public education. This contract is a first step in assuring that even when bad bills are passed, we, as a union, will find the means that will give us longevity. We will always challenge bad legislation and turn them into meaningful opportunities that will be viable in our careers. Nothing is more important than securing a brighter future for our children and the district's employees. We will be in Tallahassee fighting for that future, and I know that we will see you there too. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Shawn Beightol, sir? Would you like to come to the mic, sir?
I'm working on it.
Well,
I'm waiting for my papers to be distributed.
I'm sorry, sir, I don't understand what you're saying. What? What are you working? I know, tell me.
For mi papeles.
No, I understand. Don't be funny with me because I'm not funny with you.
Okay.
I speak English as well as you do. So don't you speak Spanish? No, don't you dare do that. You speak to me the way I will speak to you, with the same respect.
Yes, ma'am.
What you were trying to say to me is that you were waiting for me to read this, right? Is that what you wanted me to do?
I was waiting for my papers to be distributed. Yes, ma'am.
Well, it's a little bit long. If you want us to read this, then you would have to sit down, and then we can ask you to speak later, because there's no way that we can read all these pages while you come to the microphone. So it's your wish, Mr. Beightol.
I would like to speak. We
Okay,
can look at
that's
that
fine.
for reference since you've already signed the contract.
Yes, we did.
Well played.
Good afternoon, sir.
Well played, sir. Shawn Beightol, Ferguson, Senior High Chemistry. I would like to change my speech, having witnessed that done deal move that you guys just did, to see you in court. That's not on the script. But because there are people watching who wouldn't know what I'm referring to, I'll try to read through what I can. One other thing, though, to the president of UTD, speaking of misinformation, 49% of funding comes from the local millage, 49%. That's under your control, or at least a good portion of it is. The other thing is democracy, Mr. President of UTD, true democracy doesn't involve deleting comments from one's Facebook page because they're not in alignment with your opinion. I'm asking you to send this contract back. It's a little late because, number one, it includes a salary schedule that violates statutory deadline of July 1st, 2014, and the intent of grandfathered. It is vague and nonspecific in terms of its mode for advancement for those that are professional service contract teachers, and it further impoverishes your employees as described by the National Council for Teacher Quality study released in December. Please send it back. The attachments in the many pages that I've given you include a sheet covering the typos and omissions pertaining to the advancement, the NCTQ study or a reference to it that shows how Miami participates in impoverishing its teachers, and letters from your HR department that are written to the thousands of teachers each year who ask for documentation so they can apply for welfare. This is your legacy if you let this kind of salary schedule continue to be promoted. Florida Statute 1012-22-1 says the grandfathered salary schedule, listen carefully, please, slowly, means the salary schedule adopted, this is the legislature, adopted by the school board before July 1st, 2014. That schedule was the schedule in effect adopted October 14, 2013. The Department of Education nor my legal plan Professional Educators Network of Florida, neither one could come up with a single precedent to show how you can change a grandfathered policy that is described in Florida statutes. Nine different times grandfather is used in Florida statutes. You cannot find a precedent for changing something like a salary schedule that's already in place. You're impoverishing your teachers with the kind of salary schedules that you're promoting. You've got the letters from your HR department. I'm going to wrap it up now because the red light's flashing, but I am going to just read my little conclusion.
But I have not stopped you, sir.
Okay. Well, then I'll say this. Your employees are already down 4 steps. They're owed to us. This salary schedule that's in this, what we believe is a illegal change to the grandfathered salary schedule, it does not have any mechanism for returning those 4 steps or any further advancement. There's a reference to how advancement will occur, but you can't find that reference. I gave you a copy of that. It's posted in there. If you look for the reference that's identified, it's not there. The only thing that is there is the description of how new hires will be credited for different kinds of service. So the real fear among we PSC teachers, the majority of your teachers, the real fear is that there is nothing in writing. There is no specification of how we will be advanced if you throw out the step schedule that almost every other county, every other district in Florida has already complied with the law by submitting alongside their performance salary schedule. So in closing, I'm going to ask you to send this back and demand that your negotiators put something in writing to allay our fears, to show us how we're going to be respected, show us how we're going to be rewarded, show us how we're going to be compensated for the hard work that we have done that has brought you the accolades. Look at those letters from your HR department to your thousands of teachers who and your support staff who are on welfare, who every year, are you comfortable knowing that you have voted for a salary schedule that sends your employees to the welfare office to apply for food stamps? The 4 letters that you have, every year, our HR department sends that letter out and tells them, don't ask us for verification until you've really checked to see if you're that poor. That's essentially what it says. And then it says to the support staff, oh, by the way, you are that poor, so we'll send you the document, don't ask you for it. Are you really happy? Are you really satisfied to sit on that legacy, to know that you're driving people to the welfare office who worked for you? From the support staff to the teachers with masters and doctorates who are delivering the world-class education that brings you the accolades, the trips to New York, the Broad Awards. I'm asking you not to let this legacy be yours.
Thank you, Mr. Beightol. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your understanding and your expertise.
Thank you very much, sir.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Dr. Paris? Yes.
Madam Chair, first, of course, Mr. Beightol, we would want to give our teachers much more. And of course, we are so thankful for all the hard work of our teachers and how well our students are doing. But the question is to our attorney. Is there any illegal change to the salary schedule or anything that would be considered illegal in a court of law? Yes, sir.
Yes, through the chair, the salary schedule that is part of the tentative agreement that is before the board. It's properly before the board. It was properly negotiated pursuant to Chapter 447, which is the collective bargaining agreement. It was negotiated by the empowered negotiating team of United Teachers of Dade, and it is properly before the board. It is the salary schedule, both the grandfather's salary schedule as well as the salary schedule that impacts the other teachers. All of that was properly negotiated, and it's properly before the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Paris.
And certainly we thank Mr. Beightol for coming and speaking before us, as we thank any speakers, and we thank you for your hard work. We thank all the teachers for their hard work. And thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Paris. Dr. Benders-Mendenhall, ma'am, you want to go first, or would you like somebody else to go first?
Just thank you, Madam Chair. Just a comment or two, and I have to thank my colleague, Dr. Pettis-Wirtz for asking the question, because we do have a number of people. I did ask the attorney that same question because I wanted to know, mainly because I'm a teacher by trade, and I believe in fairness for all. Some of the same kinds of concerns that were just brought to our attention, I've had those same kinds of questions posed to me when I was a principal. But in the meanwhile, I want to thank UTD and staff, Mr. President, and I want to make sure that our listeners and our viewers get both sides. And I want to make sure that, Mr. Attorney, that you, once the questions are asked, and you answer them, the audience is aware that we are doing the best that we can with what we have, and that we are following the law as best we can. So please make sure that if it's more that you need to say to our listeners and our viewers, please say that, because we will be asked, what are you all doing down there? Are you being fair to all of the teachers? But I am just concerned that if we don't spell it out, that we will get more questions than we really deserve. And I just believe that we need to thank those who dig deep and who wake up every morning understanding that what they do is like no other job in the world, and it's called teaching. So again, thank you, Mr. President, your staff. Thank you for everyone who came down, who have sent us emails, who have made remarks, some of them curt, that we need to hear from you also. But Mr. Attorney, make sure we're on the right side of right, and make sure that whatever needs to be said at this time, I know the contract has been signed, but at this time, making sure that all people are aware of what we're doing down here. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And thank you, Dr. Bendos-Bendigo. Ms. Regalado, ma'am?
Thank you very much. And I'm glad Board Member Bendos-Bendigo asked for some historical guideposts, you know, and I think, you know, and I'm not going to take too long to you, I promise, but I think it's important to explain to people that are watching and that are listening. You know, I've served on this board for 5 years, and my first year here was a very difficult year. That was the year that we had to make a decision regarding Race to the Top. That was the year that we had to decide between participating in merit pay and firing over 200 teachers. And no one sitting up here made that decision lightly. And we knew that it was going to have an impact on the steps. We knew that it was going to dramatically change the historical expectations of many of our teachers. We didn't know when we took that step, as did not know any other school district, I think, that also decided to do what we did, to join as a state and participate in Race to the Top, that our legislators were going to take the Race to the Top paradigm and create merit pay, because we had fought vehemently against the change, the legislative change for merit pay the year before. So nobody expected that. And I remember when it happened, talking to Iraida and wondering what would be the impact of yet another unfunded mandate. You know, we fought SB 6. I remember Frederick. I remember, you know, we fought that fight. We were all in Tallahassee fighting that fight. So I think it's unfair to characterize us of being supportive of those policies. We were forced by the budget cuts of Governor Rick Scott to make a decision that we ideologically disagreed with. And throughout the entire process, we complained and we asked questions about the impact that this would have on our historic step system. And the answer from Tallahassee was, figure it out. We still don't have an answer. We still don't have an answer. There still isn't clarity on this. So I think it's important for everyone to remember where we were at that point. and how we had to choose between changes to our pay schedule and firing teachers, about violating class size, about finding ourselves on the other side of the table with not enough teachers for our students. There were difficult times, there were difficult decisions, and that's why when Madam Chair today said that this is historic, it is historic because everyone up here has wanted to rectify that for a long time. And we just haven't had the ability financially to do so. You know, it's fascinating to me when we read emails about the money that we spend on gadgets and technology. I will remind everyone that we have a state mandate to comply with technology requirements. We did not get up one morning and decide that we wanted to buy computers. We do our best to deal with the unfunded mandates that we are handed on a daily basis from Tallahassee. And I am proud to be on this board with people that make difficult decisions in difficult times, as opposed to just throw their hands up in the air and say, you know what, we can't figure it out. We have gone out of our way to figure it out. So I think that it's important for everyone to remember that. I want to thank Fed for everything that he's done, UTD for their leadership, because this isn't just a Tallahassee issue, Fed stood by us and UTD stood by us when we talked about the VAB. They were there. They've done more than we've done in many ways, trying to tackle that. There's lots of issues here that have led to this crisis. There's a lot of players who did not do their part. And while I think that we can say with clarity that the state failed our educational system at least 3 years, when we first got here in terms of funding, they may have done better in the last few years, and we're very grateful, but we're still catching up for the damage that was done, and that Miami-Dade County has failed the school system in its collection of taxes that has dramatically impacted our ability to pay our teachers. This board has not. This board made difficult decisions. We decimated our IT department when we had to. We made cuts in places. We have an entire building that is now a school that used to be full of staff. This is not a board that did not make difficult decisions. So, I'm grateful for our teachers. Our teachers are the reason that we have had the success that we have had as a district, but we have also led when other governments did not want to lead. And part of leadership is making difficult decisions. And I'm proud of this board. I'm proud of the decisions that we've made. And now, as we look at a better economy, as we look at more support from Tallahassee, as we look to a legislature that now understands how important public education is, of course we want to pay our teachers more. Of course, we want to ensure that we have teachers in the future. It is a vocation, and every single one of us understands that. And we understand that it is not just the foundation of our school system. Our teachers are our school system. So to say that we do not want to support them, that we want to violate their rights, that we want to take away their entitlements is not fair. Now, do we need clarity on what occurred in Tallahassee between merit pay and the steps? Is there a need to fix that? Yes, and we say it every year. It's part of our legislative platform. We go up there, we talk about it, we talk about merit pay, we talk about the exams, we talk about the weight that should be given to them, and we deal with the issues that we have regarding a system that tries at every single turn to undo what our teachers do. Whether you look at the way that merit pay is applied, or whether you look at how schools are ranked, or even how our district is ranked. We know that that's not fair. We know that that doesn't correctly paint a picture of the work that our teachers are doing and the work that our students are doing, because we have challenges that other districts do not have. But we try our best. And I want to thank UTD, and I want to thank our teachers. I want to thank staff, and I want to thank this board. I think this is a good contract. Could we, do we want to do more? Of course we want to do more. Could we do more this year? We couldn't do more this year. And I think that everybody understands that. Will we do it again next year? We go to Tallahassee, we fight the good fight, we try to fix things to get more for our teachers? Of course we will. Because if there's anyone that understands how valuable our teachers are to the system, it's this board. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Regalado. Dr. Feldman, sir? Dr. Feldman, sir, would you like to speak? Okay. Anyone else wants to say anything? No? I just want to thank again the President of the United Teachers of Day, Mr. Ingram, and certainly all your executive staff and everything that we do or that we attempt to do is to support our teachers. As was said before, they're the people that are with our students on a daily basis, so we're here. I'm here, and I know my board members are here to first and foremost support them, encourage them, and reward them as best as we can with all the things that are happening and with what happens and with the budget that we have. And the utmost respect that I have for our teachers is immense. And yes, there's certainly things that could be done better or more, and I think that would be our wish. But we have to work what we work with the funds that we have, and certainly trying to be fair to all of them. Of course, not everyone can be agreeable to everything, and that's what democracy is about. And yes, we're in a democracy, and that's the beauty of it. We don't have to all agree in the same things, but we have to do the best we can, and certainly this, I believe, this has been a contract that has been negotiated in good faith by both the United Teachers of Dade and this board and the superintendent. We, as you all know, we are not the negotiators, but we could give the direction to the administration, and that's what they follow in the negotiation process. So I thank all of you. I thank you, Mr. Ingram, for being here, your staff, and even the persons that are here that are not in support of this. I thank them for being here and expressing their thoughts. Thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Superintendent.
Madam Chair, just thank you. A quick comment. I do appreciate individuals who preface their comments by wanting to set records straight and be truthful, and particularly because these meetings are televised to inform the community about not only words that may infer something, but in fact, within the appropriate context, may actually mean something completely different. And much like the board has expressed, and anybody who is reasonable would say that teachers are overworked and underpaid, period. Now, within the state of Florida, however, just to have the community understand something, the range, and there are 67 districts in the state of Florida, the range of salaries for teachers in the state of Florida, 67 counties, is pretty close, which means that everybody's working within established appropriations and making the best of it. Otherwise, there would be a massive conspiracy of 67 superintendents and 67 school boards who all of a sudden all agree to spend money in some other way other than earmarking it to the most critical factors in education, teachers. That's impossible. So the average teacher salary in the state of Florida is around close to $48,000, average teacher salary. There are 15 school systems who are above the state average, which is interesting, right? You would think that maybe, mathematically speaking, if you recognize that there are 67 districts, that maybe 50% of them would be above the average, 50% of them would be below the average. That doesn't happen. There are 15 school systems that beat the state average. I will focus on just the top 5. Out of the top 5 districts, out of the 15 that beat the state average, 4 of them are extremely wealthy districts. And the reason why I say that is because they lead the state in terms of property tax collections, and some of them are beneficiaries of a changed district cost differential. So let me rephrase that again. 67 districts, the state average for teacher salaries around $48,000, just short of $48,000. There are only 15 districts that beat the state average, which means all of the other ones are very close in terms of their salaries. Out of those 15, there are 5 outliers. 4 of those are very property-rich districts. And I'll tell you which ones they are. Collier County, Sarasota County, Monroe County, Broward County. Why am I telling you this? Because the only district in the top 5 that significantly outpaces the state in terms of district average salary for teachers, but is not in an outlier in terms of property tax-rich county, is Miami-Dade. Miami-Dade sits as the 5th district out of the grouping of the top 5 with the lowest property tax collection worth, meaning we are not a rich county as compared to Sarasota, Collier, or Monroe County, but we outperform the state significantly in terms of teacher average salary. And why is that? Well, because under this board, over the past 7 years, we've decreased administrative spending by over 54% to earmark it towards teachers. Because even though the percent increase from the state in terms of appropriations, once you take out the McKay Scholarship pass-through and cost increases and charter school contribution, what you're left with is a very small amount. But through prudent fiscal management, this board decides up front. We fund what we value, and what we value the most are teachers. That is why this district, this county, is an outlier in terms of teacher salary. Now, is that sufficient? No. Every one of you, the 9 of you plus me, we all agree, and every single person, that being an outlier in a state that is an outlier by itself in the national landscape in terms of teacher salary isn't sufficient. But at least some credit be given to reason. And a reasonable assertion is this. Yes, Florida does not sufficiently fund education, we know that. But one district is actually outpacing other districts, considering its property tax value, is Miami-Dade. That ought to be recognized. There are some individuals who come and say, you know, instead of investing in technology for kids, just give the money to teachers. Great idea. Illegal idea. Bond revenues cannot be paid to fund, or bond revenues cannot be used to pay for salaries, instructional programs. But the moral imperative here, what are we saying? Should we really be facing a Hobson's choice? Either pay teachers or deprive kids of access to technology? That sounds great for people who live in some zip codes. But if you are a kid in Homestead, in the Redland migrant camp, if you are a kid in Liberty City, if you're a kid in Little Haiti, Little Havana, who does not have access to technology, what are we saying? Even if it was legal, it isn't, but even if it was legal, what are we trying to say? So I commend this board, and I commend those who voted in support of this contract. Much like the voices before me, I understand those individuals have trepidation and fear about the future. But here's our assurance. We have never let anybody down. When other districts were firing teachers for economic reasons during the recession, this board didn't do that. We protected them. And as I said earlier, we are ready to go back to advocate for what is fair and right for our community, for our kids, for our teachers in Tallahassee and at the federal level. And then once that is done, we're ready to come back here and continue to address the issue of salary equity. But let us not for a second fall into a false premise, devoid of fact, laden with fiction by individuals who often understand very little about public education financing or the true statistics as provided by the Department of Education, which can be looked up right now. Do teachers deserve more? Absolutely. Shall we fight for it? Absolutely. But if we had not been fighting all along, we would not be the outlier that we are right now. And we are the outlier because there is outlying strong leadership and partnership and collaboration that elevates the needs of teachers above everything else. So I thought it was important to put that out there. That do we want to do more? Of course. But the funding appropriation process in the state creates limitations, not only for us, but for the other 66 districts in the state of Florida. They're all within a couple of $1,000s of one another. That's not a master conspiracy. That's the reality of the limitation of funding. But take pride, board, take pride, Fed, take pride, everybody who lives and works in this community, that in a poor community, we outpace and lead the state in terms of earmarks and support for teacher salaries. And when you add to that, Madam Chair, members of the board, the recognition that you can give with the right hand, and if you take away with the left hand in terms of healthcare costs, then what are you doing? So take pride, board, take pride, Fed, and anybody who's listening, because for the second year in a row, this board's commitment over $70 million towards dependent health care, free health insurance for every single employee, and the fact that for 2 years in a row, not only have we not increased any cost to the employees, in fact, we adjusted the bands so that employees, particularly teachers, who are earning more, would not have to go into a costlier band. Can more be done? Yes. But it is, quite frankly, sad for those who don't recognize the reality. And we can accept a lot of things. And we're all entitled to our opinions. What we're not entitled to is our facts. Facts are indisputable. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
And thank you, sir. I believe we are finished with the D23. I need is there anything else? If not, Madam, it's been so much conversation. Did we vote on D23? Okay, I need a motion on D23. Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.